Your views, your news, your Limerick Today with Joe Nash on Live 95.
Thomas Patrick Downing, an Adair-born man who spent his life fighting racism across the US in the 1800s. And the ballad of Thomas Patrick Downing has been written by Des Ryan, who's with me in the studio to tell us a little about it. You are welcome. Good morning to you. Morning. And this is somebody that really, until you started working on it, most of us knew nothing about.
Yeah, there was 285 men killed with Custer.
General Custer.
General Custer, yeah. And if you weren't one of the high-profile officers, you were pretty much forgotten about. You were a name on a monument out in the middle of Montana. And I'm a proud Limerick man, and whenever I'm looking at something, I was looking for Limerick Connection, and I found this guy was at the Little Big Horn, and I started researching him. And the more I read about him and the more I found out about him, the story is absolutely compelling. It's amazing what his short 20-year life included. It ended at the Little Big Horn, but there was so much before that.
So who was he?
So Thomas was born in Adair in 1856. His father was a local member of the Irish Constabulary who was assigned to Adair, and his mother was Ellen Harrigan, a local Adair woman. He was born in 1856. In 1859, his father was dismissed from the Irish Constabulary because of a connection to O'Donovan Rossa and the Fenian movement. And as a result, the family had to move to the US. And so they moved over to Savannah, Georgia in 1859. And if you know about the Civil War history, Savannah was a hotbed of Confederate activity. It was deeply pro-slavery. And this is where Thomas grew up. His formative years were here, surrounded by bigotry and slavery. And he lived there through the Civil War until Sherman freed Savannah from the Confederate control. And after that, he went and he joined the army. And
on the other side,
on the Union Army, yeah. Because my view, you can never be sure about these things, but my view is the majority of the Irish people living in the South at the time would have been anti-slavery, just because of our own heritage and our own history of oppression in Ireland.
It's interesting you mentioned Savannah, because doesn't it have one of the biggest St. Patrick's Day parades in the world? It has very strong Irish connections.
Very strong Irish connections, particularly Wexford. But this was a Limerick man, and I was delighted to visit and to physically see where he lived, etc. After the war, as I said, he went to Kentucky and joined the Union Army, and fate put him in Custer's 7th Cavalry. And so this was in 1871. And he spent 2 years in Kentucky suppressing the emergence of the Ku Klux Klan.
And he was only in his late teens at this point,
So
right?
He joined the army when he was 16. He fudged his way into the army. And 2 years fighting the Ku Klux Klan. And then he was moved up to Canada, up to the border with Canada, to protect there was a border survey being done at the time, and they needed protection. The people working on the survey needed protection from the local Indian tribes.
Right. Let's stop for one moment. Yeah. The Ballad of Thomas Patrick Downing, a memoir of one of General Custer's Irish cavalrymen, originally from Adair, by Des Ryan, and we're going to talk to Des a little more after a short break. The Ballad of Thomas Patrick Downing, a memoir of one of General Custer's Irish cavalrymen, and Thomas Patrick Downing was originally from Adair. So they ended up in conflict then with Native Americans, and understandably the Native Americans had their own beef with what was going on at the time, and with justification.
Yes, absolutely. Look, it was a complex time. I try to stay away from the politics of it in the book, but there was a financial crash in the States in 1873. There was demand for money, and there was gold in them Dare Hills in the Black Hills of South Dakota, which was Sioux territory. And so General Custer was sent out to bring the Native Americans back onto reservations.
And Thomas Patrick Downing was one of the people with him.
And he was there was about 600 men in the 7th Cavalry going out to find them. Of those, 97 were Irish. So it was a huge Irish contingent, and 5 of them were from Limerick. And so they marched out of Fort Abraham Lincoln in North Dakota, what is now North Dakota. And it took them 6 weeks to find the Indian camp, Sitting Bull, Crazy Horse. And they underestimated the number of Indians that were out there waiting for them. Custer was probably a little bit cavalier. When they did find them, they decided to go straight ahead and attack. And Custer famously split his troops into different groups, and it was a fatal mistake. And those that went with Custer were all killed. And that's why everyone has this idea that everybody that was there was killed. Actually, only about half of the people that were there were killed. But anyone with Custer, and unfortunately Thomas Patrick Downing from Adair was with Custer, they were wiped out.
Right. So fascinating memoir of this Limerick man. And I know you had to research it deeply. I know social media was helpful as well. But just explain the role of artificial intelligence.
Yeah. So look, I'm an independent author. I'm out there competing with everything else that's being released at the moment, and my day job is in the the tech world. And so you have to do everything you possibly can to differentiate yourself. And so I did 2 things to try and raise interest in it. The first was I made a couple of short videos. One is a 2-minute kind of a trailer for the book. That's gone a little bit viral. It's had over 10,000 views as of this morning, which is incredible, really, when you think about it. But then I decided to try and use artificial intelligence. And what I did was on the back of the book there's about a 1-page synopsis of the book. And I fed that into an artificial intelligence engine. And it went off and researched various keywords that were in there, such as the battle, such as the Civil War. And within 5 minutes, it had created a 17-minute podcast discussing the book. The book hasn't even been released yet. And so that was mind-blowing for 2 reasons. 1, you would never know that it was created using artificial intelligence. And 2, it's actually remarkably accurate in terms of discussing his story.
Okay. So sounds like the end of my career then. So where can this be accessed online?
Okay, so it's available in O'Mahony's. Talking Leaves in Castle Troy are going to stock it, and Black Abbey Crafts in Adair are going to stock it. It's available worldwide, so you can buy it online. It's on Amazon. It's on all of the normal book retailers.
Well done, Des Ryan. Absolutely fascinating story of an Adair man.
Your views, your news, your Limerick Today with Joe Nash on Live 95.